Well, hello, everybody. Welcome once again to the Van Buren Variety Show. I'm Bob Van Buren, your host. Glad you could join us tonight. As you know, we're live every week. I have a different guest, an individual guest each night to talk about a different subject. Could be a hobby, a profession, special interest, and entertainment. So tonight will be no different. So again, welcome aboard, and I hope you enjoyed the show. Hope you've all had a great week so far. I've had an interesting week. Tell you the little story. A few weeks now, almost a month, there's been a cat coming around, a feral cat coming around the house. And I've been putting a little bit of food outside in the backyard. Not feeding them all the way, because I've always heard when you have a cat, they're good mousers and they'll keep the mice away. So knock on wood, wherever I'm not, I haven't had a mouse in the house. Well, since I started feeding it just a little bit, the cat's been sticking around. So hopefully, I'll feed him just enough to keep him around, and he'll catch the mice around if there are any. But before I left for work today, I peeped out the back patio, saw some movement on the patio. I'm like, okay, it's probably that cat. But got to look a little closer, like, that's not a cat. And upon closer inspection, it was a possum. So a possum has found out now that there's cat food on the porch every once in a while. So it looks like my kitty cat's going to have a little competition. Either he's got to work it out with the possum or he's got to catch some more mice. Thought that was pretty funny. I'm like, okay, now I guess what happens when wild animals find a food source. Here they come. So no telling what other kind of varmint's going to come up and catch that cat food. So as long as they catch the mice, I'm okay with it. So hope y'all have some pets too. So I have an unofficial pet. He's feral. He won't let me come near him, but as long as he does his job in the backyard, I'm okay. So anyway, there's my story right there, and I'm sticking to it. Anyway, so tonight we're going to be talking about another YouTube channel that I really would like to promote because it is different topics as well. And so I'd like to kind of more talk about this and kind of get into what his channel is all about. So without further ado, let me bring my guest on for tonight's show. Hello, sir. How are you today?
Bob, how are you?
Pretty good. Welcome to the Van Buren Variety Show. I'm glad you joined us.
Thank you so much for having me on. Glad to be here.
Yeah, we're going to talk about your special interest and your channel overall. So just for the namesake, tell us how your channel name is pronounced.
It's Mogollon Monster.
Mogollon Monster. I knew I was going to butcher that, so that's why I let you do it.
No, that's kind of the fun of part of the fun of having that name. Using that name is nobody can pronounce it.
It's not Mongolian, like I was going to say.
Nope.
So let's tell me about your channel. What all things do you cover on your channel, just overall? Mostly
it's fringe topics, be it Bigfoot, UFOs, paranormal, ghosts, dogman, just about anything involved with the supernatural or the paranormal. I happened to stumble upon a Bigfoot channel, a couple of years ago, and really hadn't really given much thought to Bigfoot. I saw the Patterson Gimlin when I was a kid and never questioned it. I was never like, oh, that's fake. It just was like, okay, but it lives way over there on the other side of the country, and there's one of them. That's all you thought about as a kid because you only saw one of them. So
that's right.
And then when I was like 14 and Bigfoot turned into a monster truck, that's what I knew of Bigfoot was, a lineage of monster trucks. But yeah, a couple of years ago, I stumbled upon, Sasquatch Chronicles, and I was hooked. I listened to a couple and was kind of like, wow, there's something to this. So I listened to more, and I think I've listened to almost everything he's done, which is a few thousand stories. And it just fascinated me. So then I stumbled upon again a paranormal channel that had live chat.
Mm-hmm.
And I never did live chat before, and I was like, "Oh, well, what's this? What do you do?" And
Mm-hmm.
followed the instructions, and it says name, and I'm like, I don't really want to put my name out there. I was kind of new to this whole thing,
Sure.
weird subject. So I'm like, okay, I'm in Arizona, and I'm into Bigfoot, so Mogollon Monster. That was Arizona's Bigfoot. So
Oh, okay. I wonder where the name came from. Okay.
yeah, and because and it stuck, and I I was in chats for a while, and I still am. But after over a year of being in chat, I was like, you know what? I think I can do this.
Mm-hmm.
And I decided to start a channel. And the
Good.
whole premise of Why the Fascination is the name of the show, or WTF, um, was being friends or becoming friends with these people that you see every night, just about. Because I was in chat every night somewhere.
Hmm.
And finally, I was like, well, why is everybody here? The same people in this fringe
Mm-hmm.
topic. What's bringing them here? We'll sit and we'll listen to other people's stories, but what's your story? You know,
Sure.
so that's kind of where I wanted to go with it. Was I wanted to meet these people, meet my friends, and that are, at this point are family, basically.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Um, and find out what their story is. Why are you here? There's got to be something that you're not telling. There's got to be a reason that you're fascinated with this stuff, that you're here night after night.
Absolutely.
So that's kind of why the direction I wanted to go with my channel. And slowly but surely it's come around. And
Mm-hmm. It is.
we just celebrated our 100th show.
Yeah, I know that. And congratulations. I'm a subscriber, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, to his channel. So make
Thank
sure
you.
you check it out. And yeah, that is an accomplishment. Your 100th episode. That's perfect.
Tonight we have 102 we're on. So
Oh, that's great. That's great to hear.
so yeah, it's been a trip. I've learned a lot about myself, tons about the different subjects, because my personal experiences are paranormal. That's throughout my life. Certain things have happened, and
Me too. Yeah,
but,
I can relate.
yeah, but it's been paranormal, and so I didn't look to, like, I didn't want to be a ghost hunter. I didn't, like, it wasn't like, eh. So my interest was kind of is Bigfoot, but I'll talk about anything. I have friends that have had UFO experiences, family that's had UFO experiences.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm open to that. I believe these things exist because my friends and my family I trust.
Sure.
My dad was a cop. His word
Oh,
was
really?
good enough to
Cool.
put somebody in jail. So if he says he saw a UFO, he saw a UFO.
Oh, absolutely. Okay. Hey, but you said something earlier that brings that was my misconception actually. When I heard about Bigfoot for the first time, I was just a little kid, and some of you may remember this movie that might be too young, but if you haven't watched it yet, it's called The Legend of Boggy Creek, and about a monster that was sighted in Fouke, Arkansas. But for years after I watched that movie and even a teenager and grew up, I always thought there was only one, and that was the one in Fouke. So later on, when I kind of started getting, on YouTube and looking at people's channels, I keep hearing, oh, there's more than one. Oh, there's two. There's three. There's four. All of a sudden, they're everywhere. So
Yeah.
I think it is a misconception because I don't think the movie meant to tell people that there's only one. That's the only one that you hear about, though, because they made a movie about it. So that's
Sure.
true.
And that's the same thing with the Patterson Gimlin film. I saw it when I was a kid. okay, that's all I heard about it was that film. Never looked into it. And later on, a few years ago, it's like, oh, wait, what? They're in where?
Mhm.
What do you mean they're in Jersey? What do you mean they're in New York? What, New Hampshire? What? And then you find out they're everywhere,
Have you ever heard of them being maybe in Hawaii? Have you ever heard anything? I haven't heard anything, but have you?
No, they don't. Supposedly there are none in Hawaii, but they do have little people.
Oh,
Uh,
really? Oh,
yeah, yeah. I don't know. I can't think of the name though of what they're called, but yeah, they have.
oh,
They have.
that's interesting. Oh, wow.
Yeah, if you look it
Okay.
up, you'll you'll find it.
Have you had a personal story with a Bigfoot encounter, or I've heard of Dogman, I've heard of other names too, but didn't know. Have you heard personally, or have you had a personal experience, or think that you may have?
No, I haven't. And I spent a lot of time in the woods. I was a
Hmm.
hunter. I was a fisherman. I am a fisherman. I'm an avid fisherman.
Me too. I'm a
Um,
fisherman.
but I don't hunt anymore. But I used to hunt a lot, and I've never had. I don't recall experiencing anything,
Okay,
unusual um, in the woods.
sure. But now you mentioned earlier paranormal. You've had some paranormal experiences, correct?
Yeah,
Were they pretty horrifying, or was they comforting, or what would you call it? Mine
oh
was pretty
no, nothing.
horrifying.
There's only one that was horrifying, and that I'll explain when I get there.
Okay, sure.
Might as well start from the beginning. My first paranormal experience happened when I was 13.
Oh, wow.
I had an outer body experience.
Mm.
It was due
Interesting.
to a traumatic event. It was a
Oh, wow.
fall. Um,
Mm.
I was camping with my dad and my sisters and her boyfriend up on the Delaware River, and my dad and my younger sister decided we're going to go for a hike. We
Hmm.
go up this mountain we're going to go up to this lake, and as we're going up this path, coming down the hill next to the path is a stream.
Okay.
And at one section of the stream, it cascaded over this rock that was probably a
Hmm.
45-degree angle, really long. I look at it at 13 like it's a water slide. So,
Mm. Mm.
woohoo! So I
Oh,
was only going to go like halfway up this thing, and I ended up going to the top of it, and
oh, wow.
I
Mm.
scutched over, got in the middle of this rock. Water's everywhere, and I pushed off, and zoom down the hill I go.
Mm.
I'm sliding on my ass, going down and getting bounced everywhere, getting banged up, and I, I, I want to say I was sliding, but I was basically falling. Um,
Mm.
so when I landed in a pool of water, just a tiny pool of water. Um, I landed on my feet, but my knees were in my chest. Okay,
Oh,
like
wow.
almost like you if you stood against the wall and just slid down and sat on your ankles.
Hmm.
That's how I landed in that position.
Oh, wow. Mm.
That's how my body landed. But
Ouch.
my spirit or soul kept going. So it kind of like tumbled out of me. So my body stopped, but I didn't. My spirit like tumbled out because for 2 seconds, I was on my hands and knees over there looking at myself in that squatted position.
Oh, wow.
So, you
Man.
hear stories of like people who have had
Out of body experience.
outer body
Yeah.
experience where they're looking at themselves over an operating table or something like that.
Yeah, I've heard of that. Uh-huh.
I was, when I looked up, I was squatted in that little puddle, but I was on my hands and knees looking at myself.
Oh, man. Interesting. Whew.
Yeah. So like I said, it was only for like 2 seconds. When I came back, when I snapped out of it, I saw my dad running towards me, and he was moving in slow motion. So I guess I hadn't like really come back. I just like opened my eyes, because then all of a sudden, like that, he's moving in real time, and you realize, and I realized that I screwed up.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Wow.
yeah, and I ended up walking out of there, but about a mile out of the woods, and I waited at the road and just laid on a picnic table, and my sister stayed with me, and my dad went and got the ambulance and stuff, and I went to the Pennsylvania hospital. They thought I broke both legs, my arm, and my back.
Ouch.
Got to Jersey Hospital,
Mm-hmm.
and when all was said and done, I had a broken ankle.
After all that, oh
Yeah.
wow, man,
Yeah.
you talk about lucky there.
Yeah, but that was a weird experience.
That was spooky. Oh wow, yeah. For you hit about 2 seconds is when you.
Yeah, it was like I
long.
tumbled out, but I like looked up, and I'm looking at myself, and I'm like, what the, and then I was right back in myself, but I know what happened. It was bizarre.
Other than your ankle, did you feel any other physical pain? Was it all
Oh,
over?
I was banged up. Yeah, I mean, I was bleeding from my knee and my arm.
Oh, no.
Yeah, but that was the only thing. I remember at 13, I was crying because I was bleeding because I thought I'd have to get stitches. At that age, I hated needles.
That's what you were worried about.
Yeah.
So you cover paranormal quite a bit on your channel, then, correct? I'll talk about that a lot.
It's whatever anybody wants to talk about, because I put my link to the show in my chat, so anybody can pop on and whatever they want to talk about, we talk about. I don't really come in with a subject matter in mind,
a certain subject. I got you.
Yeah, it's whatever, anybody can come on, and whatever you want to talk about, that's what we'll talk about.
So on the paranormal side, I'll ask you this much: you've had plenty of experiences. What is your opinion? Like you talked about the out of body experience right there. We've heard of people, and I want your opinion, where they are on the operation table, and you heard that story where they hover above their body. And some of them actually have said, there was actually a movie that came out a few years ago called Heaven is for Real, where a 4-year-old boy who just 4 years old claims not only did he have that, he went to heaven for a while and came back. What's your opinion of that?
Well, I didn't see the movie, for one, but I know I do know the one you're talking about. I've seen the trailers for it. Do I believe there's life after death, or I mean, what?
I guess that's what I'm asking. Life after death, yes.
Oh, absolutely. And good segue. My next experience, it kind of ties into this.
Sure. Okay.
My next experience was in 1993. My mother had cancer, and we went out there. My sister called us, said, "Hey, you got to come out here. Mommy's really sick. It's that time." So we go out there. Out there being Peoria, Illinois. I was living in New Jersey, so my sister and myself, we drove out there, and we went to the hospital, and we saw her, and she was not coherent, or anything, and we talked to her. I firmly believe that she could hear us, and she knew what we were saying, and we gave her permission to go home. We love you, Mom. We said our goodbyes.
That's good.
And yeah, and the next night, my younger sister stayed the night at the hospital. It was the first time that anybody had spent the night. And about 5:20 in the morning, my sister goes to get coffee. By the time she gets back, my mom had passed.
Oh, wow.
Well, we believe that my mom knew she left the room. She didn't want to pass with her in the room. That's our theory.
That's very plausible. I would say yes.
Yeah. So we get the phone call from my sister, and mommy passed, and it was more like, well, it's about time, because she was suffering, and
yeah, you hate to see
it
that.
was a thank God moment, thank
Mhm.
God, thank you, take care of her,
Sure.
and so the day goes on, and it's funny because my older sister was living out there, and that's why my mom was out there. And they're involved in the church. And in the Midwest, if you're involved with the church and somebody passes, food's going to start showing up at your house.
Yep, that's it. I can relate. Yep.
But I wasn't feeling it. I was like, let's, what, after everybody calmed down a little bit, my sister, I said, let's just get out of here and let's go get something to eat.
Sure.
Go get a burger, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So, we do that. We head out the door and we're going to go get a burger or dinner. Now, I got to stop it there. And growing up with my mom, we grew up on the Jersey Shore. My parents were divorced, and my sisters and I grew up with my mom.
Mm-hmm.
Now, on the Jersey Shore, whenever there was a storm, a good storm, or almost any storm, the lights would go out. We'd lose power.
Mm-hmm.
So we always loved it when it happened at night because we would sit around in the dark with candles and play Monopoly or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
Scrabble. So we loved thunder and lightning storms. As we go out that night, my mom passed, we decided, okay, we're going to go for dinner. As we're heading out, coming towards us is a storm. And I had never seen lightning like this in my life. This was strobe lightning. It was just nonstop, flash, flash. It was crazy. My sister and I looked at each other. We were like, this is mommy.
Wow.
This is her saying. So, Kathleen, I'm so sorry about that.
Yeah.
So
she can relate.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So we say, this is my mom. We go to dinner. We have good dinner, and we decide afterwards we're going to go to this bar. The storm is still raging on, and we go to this bar, and we sit at the table and at the bar, and out there they had, you know how to play Yahtzee?
Yes, I love Yahtzee. Yeah, I do.
Well, there you would for like a quarter, you would give them a quarter, and they'd give you a Yahtzee cup with dice in it, and you get a roll, and you could win. You could win things. You could win a drink. You could win money. Win 6-pack. Win whatever.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
So I said, Pammy, let's do this, and I give my quarter, and I roll, and I win a 6-pack. I give the dice to my sister. She gives her quarter, and she rolls, and she gets a free roll. So she rolls again, and she gets another free roll. And then she rolls again, and she gets a 6-pack. Now, I'm like, that's cool. And I look up to the bartender. I'm like, hey, how often does that happen?
Mm-hmm.
They're like, it doesn't. I said, huh.
Wow. Oh,
I turn to my sister. I said, hey, Pammy, listen to the song on the jukebox. She turns around and she goes all bug-eyed because it's AC/DC. Have a drink on me. Thanks, Mom.
Oh, wow. Oh, man. That is an amazing story. Wow. Yeah. And then that gives everybody hope, that's down, that there is life after death.
Yeah, so that was a nod. But so then that was like that was an acknowledgement. Like I really believed in there was life after death after that happened, I believed it for a long time. 17 years later, I find myself in Arizona It's 2010,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm at a bar, and it's it's like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I don't know what time it was. There was nobody in the place.
Okay.
I went in because I went in to go check their computer system that they had sitting in a closet that had a karaoke program on it.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to get karaoke going at this bar, and I just went to check out what they had, what was their system. So I pulled it out, hooked it up, and they had music going on in this restaurant, and I wasn't really listening to it, but I didn't want to hear it, the type of music that was on. So I went in the kitchen and I changed the satellite radio station to a country station.
Mm-hmm.
I said, "You guys don't mind, right?" It was just myself, the cook, and the bartender. That's the only people in the place.
Okay.
So I go back and I noticed that the sound system would get low. Like all of a sudden the volume would cut out. And you were like, "Where'd the music go?" My thought was that maybe that the sound system and the karaoke system was going, or maybe it was going through the same amplifier and it was overheating, maybe cutting off, and it would, get low until it cooled off and then it would come back on. That was my theory. So I start talking to the cook. We start talking about tattoos because
Mm-hmm.
he had sleeves, he had sleeves, and and I have this one tattoo. It's a lightning bolt on my ankle, and I told him, it's for my mom, and then I proceeded to tell him the story that I just told you,
Mm-hmm.
where it ends with "Have a drink on me," and he
Wow.
gets goosebumps and he leaves, and he's like, "That was weird, man," and that's crazy, and he left. I don't know if he went to the store, wherever he went, but he left the building. So with this, I go out, I go around the bar and out the patio. I'm going to have a cigarette. And it just happens to be June 27th. June 27th was my parents' original wedding anniversary. That was the day they got married.
Mm.
So since my mom's been gone, whenever I talk to her, holidays, birthdays, Tuesdays, whatever, it's I talk out loud.
Sure. Uh-huh. Of course. I do that with my grandmother now.
So I go out on the patio, have a cigarette, and I start talking out loud. I said, "Happy anniversary, Mom. Love you, miss you, blah, blah." And I'm standing there and I'm about to go back inside. And all of a sudden I get this weird feeling of doubt. And I'm like, out loud, I said, "I hope everything I've been believing in all these years isn't BS." And I walked in the door and I went over to the computer. I picked up my pint glass. I walked back to the bar. She said, "Would you like another one?" I said, "Sure." I put the glass on the bar. As soon as that glass hit that bar, I didn't realize, but the music had been low. It got really loud. And then behind the bar was a shelf with 2 Patron bottles on it, tequila bottles.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they have corks in them.
Sure.
Well, the glass hit the bar, the music got loud, and one of those corks flew out of the bottle.
Oh, wow.
The bartender turns white and is like, "What the hell is going on here?" And I just start laughing, dude. I'm like, I guess my mother doesn't want me to have another beer. Because
that is awesome. Oh, wow.
Because the music, when it got loud, of course I pay attention. And I tell her, I said, "Listen to this song." And I had to explain everything later to her, but the name of the song was "So Do You Believe Me Now?" I just doubted her. I doubted everything I've been believing in less than a minute before.
Well,
And
if that's not a message, I don't know what is. Oh, wow.
yeah, I laughed
Is
because I knew
awesome.
what it was. I saw, I was like, oh, come on. I knew I was just talking, I just talked to her. I just said all this and
Isn't
doubted
that
it.
something? I
And
believe it.
that was really reaffirming. I was like, okay.
That's comforting.
I'll never question it again, So yeah, I believe absolutely there is life
Mhm.
after death. There is heaven. There is hell. There is, you know, and it's all my opinion. It's what I believe. Um, and I'm sticking to
Okay, that's perfect. Yeah.
it.
So you covered that on your channel. We talked about Bigfoot. You talked about that. Did you touch on something? Was it aliens or no? Did you
My
talk about aliens?
Yeah, my dad had an experience. I want to get him on the channel to tell it. I've told it before, but it's that happened ironically in '93 as well. Um, he he had a house built. He retired in '93. He was a police officer, and he retired
Mhm.
out to Arizona and had a house built. But I guess when they built the house, they didn't do something like either downspouts for the gutters or
Due diligence or whatever.
whatever
Mhm.
they didn't do on the house. So my dad, he's a handyman, so he he starts to do this work, and he's got a buddy, and they're doing the work on the house, and it gets dark out, and they hear this hum. I'm like, what the hell is that noise?
Hmm.
They look up, and they're like, what the hell? They might have used a different word, but
Yeah, sure.
um, they look up and they see something that's blocking out the stars that's about the size of a football field.
Oh wow.
Um, and it had come over the mountain behind my dad's house. And this is in Sedona, Arizona. And it comes over the house, and they're like, they don't know what the hell they're looking at. And it eventually goes away. And they go inside, and my dad's wife was like, what's wrong with you guys? They saw a ghost. So he told them what happened, and
Oh wow.
she laughed, and but a week later, my dad's in the hot tub outside, and he hears that hum again. Well, he jumps out of the hot tub and runs inside and says, "Come outside, come outside!" And I didn't. I was in Jersey. I didn't live there. I wasn't there at the time.
Mhm.
So his wife and daughters come out and like, what? He goes, "What the f is that?" And they're like, "Oh." Like,
You know what? Yeah.
yeah, well, it's the same thing, but this time lights came off of it, like an orange or yellow and green or whatever it was, but they come off the middle, and one went that way, one went that way,
Mhm.
and then they like chased each other, and then they ended up going back to this thing that you couldn't see details. It was too dark, but you
Mhm.
saw the
Sure.
outline because of the stars were missing. And the next thing you know, there's fighter jets coming over the mountain chasing this thing away.
Mm. That's typical. Yep, for
Yeah.
sure.
So yeah.
Mm.
So yeah, there's a lot of different stories like that. Another friend in Sedona had a UFO encounter. So we get a lot of I get a lot of different stories. Bigfoot, paranormal, UFO. What else?
Well, my
I really,
personal
I
opinion.
haven't really gotten any like
Go ahead.
dog stories or anything like that.
Yeah. Well, my personal opinion. Again, I don't have a UFO experience. I haven't had it, but I know
Right.
of. But I fail to believe that as vast as this galaxy is, not just ours, but there are thousands out there. I find it hard to believe that we're the only livable planet. And I'm not saying that there might be intelligent life somewhere else, but I just cannot believe there's no other planet in this vast amount of space that cannot contain life, intelligent or otherwise. That's just
No,
my
there's
personal
no
opinion.
intelligent life on this planet either. I mean, No, we'd be ignorant as a species to think that we are the only ones. That's just foolish.
Mm-hmm.
And we're probably the backwoods second cousin redhead stepchild planet that the other planets don't talk about, or something. We could be just like
sure.
we're in our infant stages of development compared to some other planets out there that are more advanced. And why come here?
They probably consider us the ancient.
We're yeah,
ancient.
or primitive.
Yeah, and I just, I've always wondered. You kind of answered my own question just now. I was talking about, if they're so intelligent, why don't they come and, actually, quote unquote, reveal themselves? But you remember you mentioned in your story that a couple of F-15s were chasing that one, so I think that
whatever
they would be shot down, or missile fired at them. If they didn't, they know that. So, in my opinion.
So another experience I had was I was living in a house where a double murder had taken place.
Oh wow! Spooky.
Yeah, I knew the people too. And
the children, adults, or who was it?
The victims were
the victims.
Adults.
They were adults. Okay.
And I stayed. It was a violent killing, and I stayed in that house for about 6 months. But one night I was. It might sound morbid, or whatever, but when I moved in, I took the master bedroom just because it had a private bath.
Mm-hmm.
I slept in their bed.
Oh wow! You live dangerously.
One night I was in the house. I was living there by myself. I had I think I had a cat and a dog in the house at the time, and the owner of the house had come up. She was living down in Maryland. She came up for the weekend with her husband, and they brought their dog.
Mm-hmm.
And one night I'm sleeping, but I hear the dog come into the room.
Mm-hmm.
I can hear the pitter patter, on the floor, and I'm like, it kind of wakes me up, and I yell at it. I was like, get out of here, Tristy, and that was the dog's name. Tristy, get. And my eyes were open, and as soon as I said that, now I'm facing this way, and to my right in the corner is the bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I see this flash of blue in the bathroom, and out of the bathroom comes an orb, and it's blue. Wow. And it comes out of the bathroom, turns, goes in front of the bed, and then just fades away.
Oh wow.
And I was like, oh, okay. It faded away, and I was like, well, I went back to sleep. Mm-hmm. I rolled over and went back to bed. I was like, okay, that's it's one of the folks. I was into reading at that time a lot of books on like mediumship and life after death, and it was just weird. But another thing happened in that house was I was downstairs. I'd call it a den, and to my right is the living room, to my left is the kitchen.
Okay.
And I get this weird feeling from the living room. So I get up and I walk over to the archway, and I'm standing in the archway of the living room, and I get this feeling that something's in there, and I get scared. Like so scared, primal fear, that it went past fear. It went past, got to fear, and kept going to pissed off. And I started yelling. I'm in this house alone, and I'm yelling at something in the living room. I'm cursing at it. I'm like, come on. Come on.
Take me on.
So I got so scared. I went right past scared and went to pissed off. It was the weirdest thing. But yeah, no, I hit that fear where I was like, oh, whoa, what the? And then I got mad, and yeah, that was weird. But it went away, but it just felt really evil or not good.
Did anything happen when you yelled at it? Anything?
No, I didn't. I was like, no, I didn't see anything. I mean, but I got it off my chest. I was like, come on. And I yelled and stepped out of the room, and it calmed down and I was fine. But when I had gone in there, it was like just something just hit me wrong.
People say, did you feel it was a spirit or could it have been a demon? I mean, what's your opinion?
I had asked my sister, I said, did you tell the owner of the house, because they're best friends, I said, did you guys ever have any negative experiences in that house? Did you tell her what happened? Or I did tell her what happened. I said, this was years later. I was like, were there ever negative experiences? She's like, no. I said, I don't know, Pam, because in that room, just that once, there was something not good in that house.
Well, it sounded like there was something residual that was still there since the murder. Something, I don't know what that something would be, but it sounded like something just was, quote unquote, left behind or spiritually, perhaps.
I don't know if, because they weren't, they weren't evil people,
Sure.
They were, they were victims.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
I don't. You never know. There could have been something in that house because, I mean, it was the son that killed the parents.
Oh man!
So maybe
there was an act of evil there, obviously. So.
Maybe there was something in the house that had gotten to him. I'm speculating. I have no clue, but
you never know.
Yeah, yeah. It was sad, but yeah, those are other weird experiences I've had.
Now you mentioned the word orb before,
Mm-hmm.
just for our audience that maybe don't really know what an orb is. How would you describe an orb?
This was a blue ball of light about the size of a tennis ball, maybe a little smaller, maybe a racquetball, bigger than a golf ball, but
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it was a glowing blue, an electric blue orb of light, ball of light. It came out of the bathroom and then it just faded into nothing. But it passed in front of the bed and went away.
What would you say an orb is? Is it just energy? Is it a spirit? Or what do you say it is?
I think, it could be many different things, and I think there are more than, one type of orb.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's spirit orbs. I think there's geez, trying to think
all kinds. Sure.
I do. I think this was a spirit orb. It's given what happened. A lot of people say that when someone dies violently, the orb is red. I was like, no, I don't know about that, but this was a blue orb.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's what it's made out of, I have no idea. Plasma or, I have no clue.
Sure.
But yeah, I think they're spirits.
Do you think it's more likely that there would be, like, if there's something, like you said, violent that happened? We hear about Gettysburg, the battlefield. A lot of people that go there, they're tourists, and they sense something. In fact, there have been people that said they have seen a spirit from either a Confederate soldier or a Union soldier, or they just feel very weird because a lot of men died on that battlefield.
Oh yeah, that was one of the bloodiest battles in American history. Yeah, a lot of people see residual hauntings there. I just saw a video today. A gentleman sitting in his truck and they're filming, and there's two of them side by side talking, and they're filming these cannons. And all of a sudden, from behind the cannon, you see this figure approaching. You see a head go like this. It's a dark figure, and you can only see about that much of it.
Oh, wow.
Like this, and then it gets bigger, and it comes around the cannon, and it comes around the one and comes out in front and goes, and you see right through it. And these guys are like, do you see that? Do you see that? I see that. But do you see that? Better yet, does the camera see it? And they caught it on camera. And
They
it's,
did. Oh, okay, that's
oh
good.
yeah, it was
Oh,
a crazy sighting. And it was like, it was residual. It came out around the cannons, and you just see this big hulk of a man, not like Hulk as in like Bigfoot, but it was a
sure.
big guy, and it was a ghost, and he comes around to the other side of the cannon and disappears.
That's amazing.
So yeah,
Wow.
there's and Gettysburg is notorious for that,
Sure.
visuals. And
Well, while we're talking about the paranormal, now this is I've kind of covered this on some other shows, but get your opinion now. Ouija boards. What's your opinion of them?
don't play with them.
Wouldn't play with them. Yeah, that's mine too. But I
I
wanted to
don't
see
know.
what you
I
thought
mean,
about
when
them.
I was a kid, I did.
Yeah, we all
When I
have.
was a kid, I didn't know crap. I didn't know
Mm-hmm.
anything about it. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what it, I knew what it was supposed to do, but I was a kid, so I didn't go into it with this intent of, oh, we're going to make this work, you know. Um, but we never got into it. So, and then as a teenager, I never played with them, so I never bothered with them. I don't think people should, you know.
I agree.
Yeah,
They
I
don't.
mean, not. If you don't know what you're doing, you'll get yourself in trouble. You know?
Absolutely, I agree.
So if it shouldn't be sold as a toy, you
No,
know,
you're right.
and only use it if you know what you're doing. Like I always call it armoring up. Like before a show, I smudge and I say a prayer and I armor up, because you don't know what you're going to experience, who you're going to talk to, what their
Mm-hmm.
story is going to be, and maybe I just I don't want to go into something unarmed. In this case, like spirits can shit happens. Oops, excuse me. Stuff happens that can come through internet. I've done psychic stuff through the internet.
Oh, really?
Telepathy. Yeah, not on purpose. Like I can't control it, but I got something going on. But yeah. So yeah, I know that stuff can come through the internet. So I don't trust that spirits can't come through and they can't attach through that connection. There's a connection here. So
Yeah, and that's just one my opinion. Because my opinion, I've told this story on other channels, but I had a very horrifying Ouija board story decades ago, and I tell people it's better just to not use them. Just so because it will. I'll put it this way: it can work, but you may be sorry that it worked. If I can, and that's as far as I'll go. But I had a really bad experience using that. So
I think people are comparing like the spirit box to the Ouija board because it's another medium of communication. I don't know. I think I would kind of get into using a spirit box.
sure.
I don't know that you're opening up a portal, like, or whatever it is. I don't know. I guess if you're opening communication, you're opening communication. It doesn't matter where it's from, like a Ouija board or a spirit box. So
Sure.
I don't know. I just think the whole spirit box concept is kind of neat. I'd like to try it out.
Sure.
But armor up, definitely.
So we mentioned on your channel, you talked about a lot of very myriad of topics, which is kind of what I do here. Even we talked about Bigfoot, we talked about the paranormal, aliens. Any other kind of mysteries or unknown that you would touch on or have touched on?
I have some friends who have had near-death experiences. I want to get into that in the future. Maybe outer body experiences. What else? I don't really have.
When you say near death, do you mean when you say near death, do you mean that they almost died, or they died like staying on the operating table and they had
Like
out of
the
body
kid,
experience.
like the 4-year-old,
But the
died young
fall.
in heaven and
Oh, I
came
see what
back.
you're saying. Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
near-death experience, have died and come back.
And what they saw or what they experienced, and
Yeah,
that would be
yeah,
an interesting topic. Yeah, because I'd be very interested in hearing about that.
yeah. I have, a friend that has experienced that. So I want to cover that topic. There's another show host out there. He's with the Dark Waters Network. His name is Sean Graham.
Okay.
He has a Saturday night show called Chasing the Truth. Well, he has had a near-death experience.
Oh, wow.
I want to talk to him. I want to get him on as well, and, if I can get two people with near-death experiences, compare notes or whatever. But I just think it'd be a really good subject to cover. So,
In fact, I can relate, not me personally, but a few years ago, I had a relative. Now, he has since passed as well, but he was really bad off. He was in the hospital and had a lot of issues. And the next morning, when my family, I wasn't there, but he was claiming that, he left and he saw some relatives that have already passed, that have long since passed on.
mhm.
And he didn't see who said it. This is according to him, and I believe it. But as he was watching some of his relatives that had passed on, he heard a voice behind him. And the voice just simply said, "It's not your time yet." And right when that happened, he's back in the hospital, but he's feeling pain. He said he
Oh
really
yeah,
didn't want to leave because he was at peace. But back when he's in that body again, then he felt, the pain was back,
yeah, yeah.
And later on, though, about a couple of months later, he did pass. I've often wondered that, maybe he's finally with our long lost, our lost relatives. So I believe it because he
I'm
claimed he saw him.
curious. I'm curious though, like why, why wasn't it his time months
Yeah,
before? What was supposed to be accomplished in those months?
yeah.
The-
Just to reiterate, there's life after death,
Yeah,
and and he was not the one that was really, was not into that. And so when he said it, or when the story got back to the rest of us that weren't there, we believe it because coming from him, that's saying something, So
yeah.
that was.
You hear that a lot of where people are near death and they're seeing relatives, even like when they're in their hospital beds and they're near death, and if sometimes there's people with them and they'll hear them talking, oh, there's so and so, or I see my mother, or they see loved ones. That's really interesting. I didn't have that with my mom. She was incoherent, and
Mm-hmm. But you never know,
but she made it the same day. Within 12 hours of passing, she's showing me I'm all right.
That's awesome. That's something you'll carry with you forever.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
and so it gives you a different outlook on life.
I can see that. So,
Go ahead.
oh, no, I was going to ask a question, but go ahead. What were you going to say?
No, go ahead. I'll babble, dude. I'll just
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm just trying to touch over everything, but there was one question that I failed to ask. I even had it written down, forgot to ask. But you talked about how at the very beginning of this, we were talking about Bigfoot and cryptids and everything, that they're everywhere. What's your opinion? I guess the only way to ask it is, how'd they get here? Are they from the evolutionary chain? I mean, we've heard that aliens came. So where do you think the origination of these particular creatures came from, in your opinion?
When you say these particular, you mean like Bigfoot?
Bigfoot, yes.
Well, there's so many stories that and I'm going to touch on basically one of them just because I'll lead into it because I'm curious about the story of them being like descendants of the Nephilim. And it's only been really piqued recently when I saw a show and recently the other day, and their guest was Tim Kumbo Baker, and he was basically giving these secrets out on how to call in a Bigfoot. And it was through him and another fellow did some research and, did some biblical research and found that if you blew this certain horn, they would come in. Yeah. And so, but it all goes back to the Bible. And like, think of Jericho,
Yeah.
Well, they walked around that town, that city for 7 days.
Something like that. Yeah.
Every night they blow the horn, and on the 7th day or whatever they blew it, well, whatever. But they took down the city, blowing these horns. If I just the other day I kind of made the comment, I thought it was irresponsible of them to put out this information because basically it's power you're talking about. It's control over another species if this thing works right. So why would you even?
That's true. Yeah, I didn't think of it like that.
Put it out there because there are people out there that will go out of their way to find that power. And now that they know what they're looking for. So here's my thought. This is weird though. You hear of Armageddon
all the time, especially lately.
Okay. Well, what's the first sign of Armageddon? Gabriel's horn.
Yeah.
Okay, but what if Gabriel's horn is the same type of horn as this thing? It's called a shofar, or shofar.
I never thought of it that way.
Well it's like people they're blowing this horn and they're getting reactions from Bigfoot. Okay, and it's a biblical item they're blowing, and they're getting reactions from these creatures that may be from back related to the Nephilim. So now my thought is, what if come Armageddon, it's the last battle, the horn sounds. What if those Bigfoot are like, it's the last battle of good and evil? What if they're our enemies? What if they're the ones that are going to take out the human race? Or if they react to that horn, why would they, it's just curious. It was a crazy thought, but I'm like,
it is. Wow, that's a mystery in itself. I never thought of it that way. Yeah, it got me to thinking.
Well, why would they react to a horn? And in the end times, it's supposed to be Gabriel's horn that blows, and that's the sign of the last battle between good and evil. And these creatures are responding to a biblical horn already.
That makes sense. I mean, that is a possibility.
Or they're on our side. I don't know, but
that's a good theory. I mean, yeah, I'm open to any kind of concept because I'm always open to any kind of new suggestions or theories or so that's something I never really thought about, but that is a good.
See, Kathleen even says they also blow the shofar to warn the people that imminent danger is close.
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah, it's just. It dawned on me after, I had made these comments, and I wasn't trying to be rude or anything to those guys. I appreciate what they do, but I just thought it might have been a little irresponsible to put that kind of information out there.
Sure.
So, and then I started thinking, well, what if, if that's true and that you can't attract them with this thing and they're supposed to be Nephilim, maybe it's, goes to, like if it's that biblical,
that's what's called a mystery.
Yeah.
Well, hey, sir, I absolutely appreciate you being here tonight.
Pleasure.
Would love to everybody that's watching, whether you're watching live or you watch later, come check out his channel. Very interesting. I've been on there many, many times. Now, tell us about your show. Now, this show, Van Buren Variety, we have a set time and day that we're on. Do you have a set time and day, or do you come on just whenever you feel like it?
For the past 101 shows, I've been pretty consistent. Tuesday nights, I am on 10 o'clock Eastern, p.m. Eastern
Okay.
Standard Time, and Thursday nights I'm on 11 o'clock p.m.
Okay.
Eastern Standard Time.
Definitely check
Yeah,
you out.
yeah. I will be on in an hour after. I'll be on in an hour with my co-host Iron Dogger. If you're watching and you're not doing anything, come check us out.
Absolutely. And tell us one more time for the people that came in late. Okay. Just pronounce your channel again.
It's Mogollon Monster.
Mogollon Monster. I'm
And
going
it's
to put that in my head as well. It's me.
And the name of the show is Why the Fascination, or you'll see WTF is,
Why the Fascination. All right.
Yeah.
Y'all check his channel out, and I guarantee you won't be disappointed because it's very interesting. I'm a subscriber myself, and I try to tune in whenever I can. So, again, sir, I really, really appreciate you being on tonight and educating us a little bit more. So, hope to see you again soon.
All right, man. Well, thank you so much.
Okay. Have a great night.
Good night to everybody in chat.
Bye-bye. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for tonight. I know 1 hour seems like it goes so fast when we're talking about an interesting topic. Every topic I've had so far has been very interesting, and some hour just goes by like that. But I appreciate everybody coming by. Make sure you remember that every week there's a new episode of the Van Buren Variety Show, an individual guest with another topic of special interest. So hope you'll tune in and hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't already, because as I said last week, this show may be expanding. I'm having a lot more guests come in. So if you hit like and subscribe, you might be able to catch some of the specials that may be coming up pretty soon. So anyway, I appreciate you being here tonight. Glad you're here. Hope to see you again soon. This is Bob Van Buren for the Van Buren Variety Show. Hope you have a great week, everyone. Good night.